Hey guys, it's Claudia and it's sunny outside so I can make a video today. Today I'm going to be doing a DIY video showing you how to make a pillow like this. Just a simple heart pillow. It's just a decorative pillow for your bed and I love it. It's so cute and it's so fast and easy to do. So I'm going to show you what you need to make this little pillow project. So to do this, you can hand sew, but I do recommend a sewing machine if you can because you don't want the pillow coming apart, and especially if you use satin. Satin frays a lot. It frays a lot. If you don't want it to fray, you could try using a stretchy material, a stretchy cotton, but it's going to be hard to work with, but it just doesn't fray, so you don't need to finish the edges properly and stuff like that. So I'm going to be using my Janome machine. Also, you need thread that matches your fabric. I'm going to be using red satin like this. You're going to need pins, a pencil, and paper for the pattern. A seam ripper just in case. A hand sewing needle even if you're going to be using a machine. And scissors. And I'm using a rotary board and a rotary cutter, cotton or polyester stuffing. So first of all, to make your pattern, I already have made mine, so I'm not going to demonstrate. But it's really simple. I just folded the paper in half. This is pattern paper. It's not actually pattern paper, it's just big paper, I think. But you can buy pattern paper places, and you can just buy huge sketch pads and use that, or tape paper together like I have to do sometimes. Anyway, I drew the shape that I wanted, and then I used soft measuring tape, or you can use a small ruler obviously, to add the seam allowance. And then I cut it and I opened it. Voila. With the seam allowance, my heart is 14 inches tall and 12 inches wide. And I do live in Canada, so I know I should be using centimeters, but I mix them. I use inches sometimes, and sometimes I use centimeters. I'm going to start cutting up my two pieces, and I'm going to do them one by one because satin moves around a lot, and it's kind of difficult to cut out two pieces at a time. And I'm going to pin a lot, making sure that the grain line is going up and down the pillow rather than across or diagonally. So I've finished cutting and I've ironed my fabric. Now you can iron the fabric before you cut, after you cut, and before you sew, or even after you sew, whatever works best for you and your fabric. So now that my fabric is ready for sewing, I'm going to start. I've already threaded my machine. I'm going to start first by finishing off the edges so that the fabric doesn't fray. I don't have a serger, but I'm going to put my machine on this setting, the stitch right here. You can't tell, but it's like a zigzaggy stitch and it's like a weird shape. And then I'm going to put this setting up here. So I don't know, like on your machine would probably be a different setting and you might not have the same stitch, but if you don't have the same stitch, you could just do a zigzag stitch. Whatever kind of elaborate zigzag stitch you have. If you don't have an elaborate one, it's fine, just a normal one. And I'm going to do that all around the edges of both hearts. I have finished zigzagging, and you can see that the fabric already started to fray a lot outside of the zigzag. So satin is really a bad idea if you're going to hand stitch. If you are hand stitching, you could skip this step and go to the next one, which is, we're going to put the fabrics right sides together, and we're going to pin. So I've pinned my fabric together, and I forgot to include this in the materials that you need, but anyway, you'll need a marking tool. I'm using wax today. I love wax because when you iron it, it just disappears, it just melts. 5 inches from the bottom of the heart to the side, and that's about 12 centimeters. About 13 centimeters, yeah, exactly 13 centimeters. And we have to do that because we have to leave this gap open, and we're going to sew around the rest of the heart. But we need to leave this gap open so that we can flip the fabric right side out and then put the stuffing in the pillow. So now I'm going to sew around the rest of the heart and it's going to be almost done. And just a note to those of you who are using a machine, make sure that you're taking out the pins as you're sewing along because you don't want an accident to happen and for the machine to spit out the pin into your eye. It's happened to me before, but not into my eye, but it's popped out at me and it can be dangerous, so be careful. And don't forget, because I always forget to change the settings, so to normal stitch and the length is 2.5. So I finished the sewing and it's basically pretty good. I backstitched a little bit here and here, make sure to do that. So we're almost done. We need to clip right now. Clipping is basically just cutting lines into the seam allowance pretty close to the seam. So that's like pretty close. So I'm going to do that all around each curve of the heart. I love this part because it means you're almost done and it means you're about to see what it looks like. And yeah, one side of my thread is red and the other side is pink because I ran out of bobbin thread. I didn't feel like putting more red on the bobbin, so I just used a pink bobbin. So I'm clipping to around there, really close to the bottom actually. I finished clipping and I did some clipping in the top middle, so make sure to do that because that's crucial also. So I'm done and I'm going to flip it right side out. So yeah, you might want to make the hole a bit bigger than I did because now to think of it, you need to stuff your hand through and my hand's pretty small, so just maybe make it 6 inches or 7 inches just to be safe. And now the edges are pretty bubbly, so I'm going to go and iron this so that the edges are crisp and the seam shows. I have ironed the edges, so just kind of roughly, just because I'm going to stuff it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. They're going to even out later when we stuff it. And I also ironed the gap right here so that I know like where to hand sew, and also because there's this excess material right here that we don't need. There's a lot of it, so I'm just going to cut it off. Like you would cut off a corner. So like if you haven't done a corner before in sewing, you just cut off the excess fabric so that when you poke it through, there's no like bulkiness in the corner inside. So be careful though where you cut it, but this should be fine. So that when I hand sew this closed, there's no bulkiness like there was before. Okay, now getting my stuffing, and I'm going to stuff the pillow with a small piece at a time. So I'm trying to even out the stuffing. It's getting pretty big. I'm going to put just a little bit more in. So now I'm going to thread a needle and there's a double knot. Finished the pillow. I finished the hand stitching, which didn't end up being very good. So I went over it like 2 times. It's okay. It doesn't really show. So it's finished now. That means it on my bed. And my bedding's finished. Yay.